inside of that corporation feel separate from the actual horrific acts. So there's a diffusion of responsibility in being attached to a group. You know, I am just one of these people. I am just a manager of this region, and that's all I do. I mean, I have to abide by my shareholders' needs.
In the book, I interview a guy who used to be vice president for human relations for IKEA. And he found out about my work about 10, 11 years ago, and he said, I want to talk to you. And he called me at home, and I thought he was just a strange guy with an accent. You know, when you get known a little bit, all kinds of people want a piece of you, you know. And I thought, here's another. But anyway, he came out to Vancouver from back east, and we had sitting with lunch at my house, and my wife is there, and Ray, my wife, says to him, his name is Ulf, and Ray says, Ulf, well, what is it that you do? And Ulf says, oh, I work with this company, maybe you've heard about it, called IKEA. And my wife just about jumped off her seat because she's just been to IKEA that morning buying some furniture. But Ulf says that for decades, all he lived for was to be successful within the company, and he totally lost himself. He had no value, he said, that wasn't associated with his success as an executive. And he says it was an empty existence, and he says he was making himself sick. So he gave it up, you know. But he talked about what it's like inside that world. And he's uniquely, he's a gifted photographer. So he started doing photography, and he's a very healthy man. But he had to really learn after decades that everything had been done for some external. And in this culture, we're so driven to validate our existence by impressing others, by trying to make ourselves successful, by the standards that are laid down for us by external forces that have nothing to do with our real needs and who we actually are as human beings, that it's almost impossible not to fall into that trap.
It's very, very difficult not to fall into that trap, particularly if you're invested in a career path and you've achieved a certain amount of success, and then you have responsibilities and you have bills. You know, you have mortgages and...
Not only that, you also have the whole world telling you how great you are.
Yeah.
So when my wife would walk into a department store or anywhere with a credit card, and they'd say, you know, are you the wife of, oh, isn't he wonderful? And she was just gritting her teeth. Because the same wonderful guy who's such a success out there is not like that at home. In fact, it's at the expense of the home that his success is in some ways achieved. So that there's that. So not only do we have bills to pay, we also even get all this validation for the way that we abandon ourselves, you know?
Yeah, and oftentimes you don't concern yourself with the appreciation of your loved ones because you get it no matter what. You live with them, you get it, you expect it. But you concentrate so hard on this thing that you're pursuing, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder or becoming a physician and you know, working so hard constantly day in, day out. And that's the only way you get any measure of this feeling of value.
That's right. It's when you try and get that sense of value from the outside, which if you had been valued just for existing from the moment you were born, you wouldn't have to keep doing.
You wouldn't have to keep doing it. But the thing is, like, so many people from that terrible childhood have developed this ability to pursue excellence, and then they have shaped and enhanced and influenced so many other people's lives because of their work, whether it's their art or whether it's their sport or whatever, something that they've done, some way they've accomplished things has been incredibly influential to other people, yet they came from this horrific trauma.
Well, that's true. And the question is, can I balance that with more self-awareness and a more expansive experience of life where they narrowly focused? Let me tell you a story, and let me ask you what you think about it.
Okay.
If I told you about a 4-year-old girl who is bullied by neighborhood kids. You've got daughters, don't you? So imagine your 4-year-old daughter being bullied by neighborhood kids, and one of them runs into the house to their mom and say, for protection. And the mom said to her, there's no room for cowards in this house. No, you get out and deal with it.
Yeah.
How would you see that?
Well, it's abusive.
Okay.
You're setting the kid up to be not protected and that you don't care. And also this is there's a horrific aspect of human nature, that desire to gang up on kids, if a group of people gang up on people and bully them.
So, speaking of that, you would see that interaction with the mom as abusive and traumatizing.
Yes.
Okay. This story was told on public television in the United States in front of a cheering audience, millions of people watching on television at the Democratic Convention in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was nominated. And she told, and it was the voice of God, Morgan Freeman, who actually narrated this bio documentary about her. And this was presented as a wonderful example of resilience building.
Oof.
And so I'm saying trauma is so normalized in this culture that even when this horrific incident is being depicted on television in front of millions of people, people think this is wonderful. And nobody commented on it. Now, 65 years later or 60 years later, the same candidate develops pneumonia during the campaign. I don't know if you remember that, when she got pneumonia. You know what she did?
What?
She sucked it up. She didn't tell anybody about it till she collapsed in the street with dehydration. Now, the supposed lesson was this taught me strength and resilience and independence and self-reliance. So a lot of the success that we sometimes perceive in this society comes at a huge human cost. And we don't even recognize it. It's so normal, we don't even recognize it. I'm not talking about politics now. I am talking about politics. These are very often